Okay, thank you very much. I would like to call the special committee of the whole meeting for Monday, April 27th to order. I've already done the territorial acknowledgement, so I will move on. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt today's agenda, please? Thank you, Councillor Grove and Councillor Olson. Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Adoption of the minutes. May I have a mover and seconder to adopt the minutes from the March 23rd, 2026 committee of the whole meeting? And please, Council, same two. Thank you. Same two. And are there any errors or omissions? Oh, yeah, sorry. Thank you very much for that correction. So we just need the mover, right? Sorry. And any errors or omissions? Not seeing any. I will. The motion carries. Unanimous. Public participation. There were no written submissions that have been received for committee of the whole, and no members of the public have registered to speak virtually. And let's just Gord up there, so you don't count Gord. No one from the public. So we'll just move right on to new business. Growing community funds. Mr. Johnson, if you can introduce our presenter, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. This is the Growing Communities Fund, and Kathy McLennan, our Director of Finance, is here to provide council with an overview.
Thank you very much. Kathy, over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So as we experienced during budget deliberations, there was some opportunity still remaining for council to decide how they wanted to allocate the Growing Communities funding and to which projects. This is not our first attempt to try to surface the right information that council needs to make this decision. So we're hoping tonight if we could at least identify the, we're calling it, I don't know if we're calling it a bucket or what we refer to them as, so that we know which category at least the council would like us to focus on. This report today, based on council's previous decisions, was largely focused on parks improvements because that has been the direction we've received to date. In the draft financial plan, council will recall that there was funding allocated to the Metchosin Lagoon as well, was proposed as an infrastructure option for council to consider. And as well, there was the Allendale lift station was also lifted up as an option that council could consider. Some of council have also lifted up other options, and honestly, the list is endless. We just really need direction from council in terms of where would you like us to focus, and if that decision can be made tonight based on the options brought forward, that is amazing. And if it's just to provide us with a area to focus to bring forward those additional projects, that is equally, maybe not equally as amazing, but close to amazing, so that we can move forward and get the money spent for council. So to that end, there is a list for you that we don't have a presentation, unfortunately. This presentation is sort of a collective group effort. All of staff got together to sort of prepare options for council to consider. These 7 categories have been surfaced for council to consider, and Parks and Recreation is just the one that stood out for staff as the one that has been the most supported, and also you know, it's an obvious and nice way to show the community that these dollars are being spent, and that's a subjective comment that I share for no value, obviously. So if we went through, I guess I would firstly like to know if council has any direction in the way you would like us to proceed, or if you want to go through the lists. We didn't bring forward a list of additional infrastructure works. We would have to come back to bring those forward if that's council's direction. There's also the corridor studies, and there's many ways that this money can be spent. So we're really just seeking council direction on how you would like us to proceed.
Okay, thank you very much. I'll open it up to council for questions. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I just wonder if you could, for the benefit of anyone who might watch this afterwards, as well as for council, just run through how use of these funds might impact if we used it for an infrastructure project, for example, that is on the list for DCC funding. Quite often I've noticed that because it's difficult to predict how much something is going to cost, that there's often a shortfall. So just looking to understand how the use of these funds to offset the costs for some of the transportation works that seem to be resonating with members of the community.
Yes, thank you for the question. And this is not uncommon amongst all the DCC programs and with the parks as well. I know Councillor Jordison had asked a similar question. These programs are put in place when the dollars are estimates. And so we do revisit those bylaws at least every 5 years. And when that doesn't preclude us from using grant funding towards those initiatives that have been previously planned under another a DCC program. But then if we do choose to finance that in a different capacity, then when we revisit the bylaw, we'd have to then disclose that we received alternate grant funding for those projects, and then it reduces the program as it moves forward. And so if we had accumulated excess funding, for example, that just gets spread amongst the remaining program. And for the parks one in particular, that is a brand new program, like just started in 24. So there is not a lot of capital in that program yet. And so we would then go back and when we revisit that bylaw, we would say we advance these programs because we received grant funding. Here's the grant funding that we received, and it would reduce those projects and spread that amongst the remaining program.
Okay, so there's no preclusion then for using it for transportation items that would also be contributing to development cost charges, because it's more than likely, at least in my opinion, that, and I'd like to know if you agree, that the costs for road upgrades and pedestrian signalization, intersections, all of the things that are going to come forward in the next few years to try to improve mobility in Colwood, that it doesn't, it doesn't let developers off the hook for contributing to development cost charges that are associated with the projects. It simply augments knowing that we have a lot of things to do.
Yes, thank you. Definitely, they are still paying the DCC cost charges that are in force under the existing bylaw. And then when we revisit the bylaw, that's where we determine what the new project composition might look like and what the new estimates are and what the new DCC rates might be based on the changes in the program since the last time it was updated. But definitely developers will continue to pay the DCC levies under the existing program that is in force. And it doesn't preclude us from using the Growing Communities Fund to fund some of those projects if council chooses to advance those. We know, I think you were alluding, that we do not have a sufficient DCC to cover all of the works that we are planning. So we will be looking for other funding, even additional grant funding as it becomes available.
Great. And just for everyone's knowledge, do we know when we're going to be looking at the roads DCC bylaw next? Because we did like a minor update, but it needed more work, as I recall.
Thank you for the question through the chair. I believe it's in our financial plan for 2027. And the intent of that is to get through our TMP and then have all the projects ready and be able to leverage that into the new program.
Great. Thank you very much.
Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. On the Appendix 2 with the summary of the approved projects already, I wonder if maybe Gord knows where we're at with one of the washrooms sorry, I'm just still trying to open it. The washroom at Ocean View Park, it's still at 310, and I'm just wondering if that is with the sewer or without.
That's the funding that we have right now for the proposed washroom. We have done some more work with the sewer, and we are moving in that direction. We don't have a costing, but we would come back to council if it was going to be more than the 310. We're hoping that within that 310, it's looking very good for actually having it to sewer. So we're looking at a different model for the whole washroom itself. while it's added to sewer. So there could be additional costing for that. We don't know that yet though.
Thank you.
Council Ward, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just through the chair to staff, just a question on the project list that was provided. I mean, I think we all know there's a million things that we could look for. My math was pretty hurried here. I was just calculating, but it looks like it nets out to about 2.6 million, give or take. I don't know, Kathy, if you have an accounting for that, but was this intended to kind of address the remaining balance specifically, or is that coincidental? I'm just curious how we arrived at that. Because I believe we have 2.9 remaining. This seems like it's within striking distance of that little buffer. Is that just a coincidence or?
It's not a coincidence. We were trying to surface projects that would get us close to spending the money that is available so that we can have a plan to target by the end of March. We might have this money spent. It does come to the 2.6 that is referenced in the report as well. So we could combine that with some of the, if council chose to, the Machosa Lagoon infrastructure project as well. So it's kind of a mix of a menu, I think, is the language we were trying to surface for council to choose from.
Yeah, and thank you for that. And I should clarify, it's not a criticism. I think I appreciate it, and it seems quite balanced. There's a few things in there that I think really fit the bill for what this this funding was for. There's a few things that I've never seen before, but seem interesting. But you know, in general, though, it's a huge opportunity, and I think sometimes we fixate on the big thing and we look for, you know, the home run, so to speak. And in many cases, there's a lot of little things that matter that fall by the wayside, like the slide at Herm Williams Park, for example. You know, they seem inconsequential, but in an area that doesn't benefit from development, like we see in sort of South Colwood, you know, that's probably got a magnifier attached to it, right? It's 10 times the value to fix a playground in an area that sees really very little, if any, funding. You know, we've got a couple sidewalk projects there, but that's it. So I'm intrigued by this because it does spread out the money across Colwood, and I think we could workshop this and establish priorities and do a lot of things. But as a starting point, I found it pretty interesting to be able to spread the money around and do some things for the entirety of Colwood. So thank you for putting it together.
Just a clarification on Council Ward's question. So is the spend that we have to spend, is that the amount that we were granted and the interest, or, and it is, darn it. Okay. Councilor Jensen, please.
Thank you. I was looking at that spreadsheet. It offered a lot of stuff around Colwood Creek Park. I take it, is that stuff still on pause, awaiting for some kind of?
Gord might be able to speak to that, but it is on pause. However, we do have it still planned for 2027. That's our, that's when we anticipate that work being able to move forward.
Actually, the same thing. It's on pause. We are working towards, we are holding the public hearing for the ALC application would be next, and then negotiations with the ALC. And we're still hoping we're on target for 2027 for that.
So are we going to hang on to can hang on to some of those funds to pursue those works if that comes through? Like, what's the plan B if we're up against a wall timeline wise, and we don't have a read from the government yet?
Yeah, then
I used to work in government.
Yeah, I mean, we're still confident that we are going to be able to spend those monies in Colwood Creek. And if we're unable to because of an ALC decision, then we would have to come back to council with other priorities.
Well, I mean, I think you have lots of priorities here. This is fantastic. So, I mean, what I'm hearing is if we need to, we can pivot. Thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, thank you. I just have a couple questions and I'll get on Councilor D. So I just, and it's not that I don't believe in any of this, but I'm just going to challenge some assumptions right now. And I know we don't classify parks here, right? Because there's obvious parks where there's a big public engagement. We have gatherings there. And I'm looking at some of the smaller parks, which I call neighborhood parks. So I'm just challenging council here because I don't know. I don't have a definitive answer one way or the other. Like, for example, and I don't mean to hit up your area, Dean and Misty, but Ocean View Park. Why would we want to put bathrooms there when the majority of the people, I'm going to argue, are people that live in the neighborhood, right? It's what I call a neighborhood park. Similarly, I mean, I know we just talked about evenness and fairness right now, but Herm Williams, most of the people that use that park are people in neighborhoods. Where Colwood Creek is open, like a lot of people in public use that. So clearly understand that. I clearly understand Quarry Park in the future. You know, it's going to be venues where you're going to have large amounts of people from the public. So I guess I just challenge, you know, we sort of agreed to this. I know that beforehand, but you know, in hindsight now, I'm thinking, is that worth the money? Like it's a lot of money that we're sinking into this. So that's my first question. My second question is along the lines of the majority of our money here is obviously parks. That's where we want to spend all our money. And that's a decision that basically the guidance we gave you as a council. But now I look at this right now and I say, okay, well, maybe do we have to spend it all on parks now? I'm just having second thoughts right now, myself personally. And this is a personal opinion only. When, you know, maybe, you know, we have this plan sometime in the future. It's lower in the priority list, but we've already got money sitting in the bank right now for a community center. We're one of the only municipalities that does not have a community center right now. And we were talking about putting the one that's going to go into Quarry Park. Is that something? But I don't think we're going to be able to spend it by the time that's the expiry date. That's what my issue was on that. That's why it's just a non-starter, to tell you the truth. But I guess the last question I have along that same lines, my second question is, you know, is this a conscious decision? I'm going to ask council because certainly tell me what you think, but should we be spending some of this on public safety? You know, the RCMP station. And I'm just posing this to all council right now because I don't know. It just seems like we're throwing everything into parks right now. And it's great because it's community building, which is a great theme that we have as a city council right now. But I guess my concern is that you know, should we be more diverse in spending some of this money? Because the other question that, you know, that's related to this is that one thing that we've never seen is with all these improvements we're doing with the parks right now, there are higher O&M costs, and we've never addressed that. So it's more of a comment than a question that board. But and the question is really for council. Kathy?
If I could then just before council responds, I think staff at least are hoping that we're not going to revisit parks improvement plans that have already been improved and are in progress. We're looking for maybe further direction, although it's always council's prerogative to revisit. Our ask tonight is for further direction on how to implement those plans.
Yep.
We did talk about the Royal Bay Rec Center. We looked at the funding that is in place, and we concur with what you've mentioned earlier, that there just wasn't timeline or funding to make that happen at this time. And as far as RCMP goes, we sort of missed that window, I think, if we were going to entertain that, because Langford has already spent their whole Growing Communities Fund. And we've already signed an MOU that talks about how the funding arrangement is going to work with the CRD, and it's a proportionately based when they eventually requisition us. So if we try to change that formula now, we would have to revisit that agreement. If Colwood decides we're going to fund some of that with Growing Communities or View Royal, it changes the nature of that ratio and that proportionate going forward.
Okay, just a clarification, you may want to check with the CFO of View Royal, but my understanding is they're using some of that for the RCMP.
I did talk to their CFO about this matter, and we concurred, like, among the group, that it would change that, and their CFO had advised me that they wouldn't be pursuing it, but I don't know if they still are.
Okay, thanks very much, Kathy, for that clarification. And I will go to Councillor Day. Oh, you're sorry.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Olson, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, in reply to your comment about washrooms at Ocean View Park, yes, we're in that neighborhood, Councillor Jansen and I, but we do get a lot of volume at that park because we also service all of Triangle, right? There really isn't parks like that with playground structures on Triangle. So quite often we see a lot of people coming down. So we are servicing a lot of larger population maybe that you might have pictured. And when you're talking about just like a surrounding neighborhood, we are funneling all of that traffic in through the park.
I believe you, Councillor Wilson. Yes.
Just had to say that. Thank you.
Okay.
If I may,
Okay, and then Councillor Jordan.
I just wanted to first I would confirm that Ocean View Park has always been a destination. So it is important. And when you're traveling with a young family, it can be very beneficial to have a washroom nearby, whether it's grandma who needs it or the little kids who need it, that we're all in the same boat. In regards to, I wanted to know where we were at with the signalization of the intersection at Manchosen and Lagoon. I couldn't immediately put my fingers to when we have that planned for. And I didn't quite understand yet whether or not we needed funding in order to expedite it.
Thank you. Through the chair. I believe, and just drawing on my memory relative to our financial planning and our budget discussions, I think it's our first project earmarked based on after the corridor study. So it's assumed through engineering right now that the corridor study will be completed in 2026. Like soon, we'll come forward to council with a suite of projects, and we've made the assumption in our financial plan that that is our first and highest priority project. But our corridor study will either solidify that or change that, and we will pivot based on those findings. I think we have a 1.2 roughly in the budget right now. And as I alluded to during our budget deliberations, it's not a shot in the dark, it's an educated guess. There's land acquisition, there's a higher standard we hold now, there's based on the corridor study, the laning and how that geometry is going to work. There's a lot at play for that intersection right now. So again, once the corridor study is done and we have that clarity, we'll know more and be able to bring more to council to solidify that budget and the phasing and planning for that entire corridor.
And is the corridor study fully funded by taxation, or I'm just wondering where our corridor study is funded?
That is $125,000 budget for 2026, and it's currently funded through the reserve for future operating expenditures.
Can you explain that one in plain English? The reserve fund for future operating expenditures is taxation money, is it not carried forward? So I would like to propose that we should consider, because that corridor study is the foundational piece that allows us to get to signalization at Lagoon. I think that is an area that would merit funding from the Growing Communities Fund.
I'll come back to you, Councillor Day, on that for the motion. Okay, thank you. And I'll go over to Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just have a question about, so I know this will sound offside for a minute, but bear with me. The fire truck and like fire expenditures, are those just expenses that are borne by taxpayers to pay?
The short answer is yes. Those are taxation funded through what we call our sustainable infrastructure replacement. Those are a sustainable, sustainably funded, which is why we don't probably choose those out of the gate for an option to consider. So, yeah, thank you, Kathy. I appreciate that. So in the list there, like fire was a component that we could have chose from. So I guess when I bring up the DCC thing, the reason I say it is that parks have DCCs, road infrastructure has DCCs, and the fire truck has taxpayers, and like that was 1.1 million. So
if you were putting those fire initiatives into this fund and paying them out of this fund, it could potentially give taxpayers a break even more so, because these other things are funded through DCCs. So that, I guess that's my concern about it. Maybe I'm misunderstanding it. Yeah, if I could, sorry. We wouldn't necessarily decrease our sustainably funded capital replacement reserve just because we had funded a piece of equipment through another revenue stream. So when we sustainably fund a replacement reserve like that, unless there's a long-term impact of reduced requirement, we wouldn't just make a one-time reduction like that. So it wouldn't result in a decrease in taxation to residents. The fun thing about this, the $1.1 million fire truck in the plan, is that as a result of the master plan, the fire chief and team are actually reevaluating whether we need to make that purchase in 2026 in the first place. So we haven't lifted it up. And it has many reasons, like I just shared, many being two. Okay. And just sorry, my last question. I guess I'm just a little disappointed in the whole Growing Communities Fund thing, because I think in the very beginning we were all not really sure where to spend the money, but we had some grand plans, if you will. And I feel like maybe not knowing as much as we understand now that these kind of scope creeps kept coming up, and I wasn't anyway, I'll speak for myself, wasn't really aware that we were spending that fund directly, if I'm being honest. So, and then just to see that it's kind of all going to the one place. I mean, it's good, but it does bring benefit. But I'm just disappointed that we're not going to have a community center or the start of it. But thank you for all your work on this.
Perfect. Council Ward, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just gonna go out on a limb and make a motion just to get the fun started. Somebody's got to get beyond just open discussion. First, little background. I'm going to base it off the list that's been provided. I'm looking at the list and there's a couple questions that pop out to me. Lagoon West Park, for example, to me, I kind of ask myself, when is a park not really a park? And it is a park. There's different types of parks, right? There's the public parks where people go. There's the playground parks. There's Havenwood Park where you're there to experience nature. Lagoon West Park doesn't strike me as an optimal site for a playground and a band shell and some of these other things, at least not right now. The population down in that area doesn't support it. Frankly, there's not a lot of young families down in that area. It's not a true destination. I would credit Arts and Culture Colwood for bringing some people down there, but again, not that demographic. I think when a future state arises, when there's significant development down there, if and when that should ever happen, that might change. But then you'd be looking at parks, DCCs, and other things that could be utilized to improve the area. So what I'd like to do is make a motion to put forward. It's easier for me just to say what I'm excluding versus what I'm including. I would exclude the natural playground, interpretive shelter, and band shell from Lagoon West Park. I would exclude the outdoor classroom and learning space from Ocean View Park, not because I have anything against Ocean View Park, but I think it's quite a steep climb up from the nearest school. It's not really a destination for schools to go to, but I think the court upgrade, for example, to a multi-sport court, much like you see at Dunsmuir, could attract people from all around, from Triangle Mountain, from the neighborhoods there to play there. I think that would be advantageous. So I would exclude those items. And the reason I do that is I would like to see us add back in similar monies, and I would have to probably lean on Mr. Gord over there to give us some idea here, but we had a discussion offline, or we had a query from the Rotary Club, for example, about potential expenditures. And one of the items, and I forwarded along to everyone and to the mayor, is that I have a history with Rotary. I was sponsored by them in 2000. I was a member of the Rotary Club District 5020, which is the local one. So one of the things they do very well is build playgrounds, particularly splash pad playgrounds, water parks. So there is a lengthy list. If you go online and Google it, you can find a ton all across BC. Carnarvon Park in Oak Bay, for example, is a Rotary splash pad. So rather than some of these things in Lagoon West, I'd like to propose putting aside some monies to potentially partner with Rotary on a splash pad addition to Quarry Park. I think we have a jewel there in terms of the playground. Regionally, it is a destination. People come from all over to visit that playground. When that slide's fixed, it'll be perfect. But there's an opportunity there with the pump track, with the playground, with the playing fields. A lot of parents I talk to, the only thing they're missing is some sort of water feature in an area that's devoid of tree cover, pretty much, very hot in the summertime. I think there's a huge opportunity to look at sort of a public-private thing. We could work with PATH on that. We could work with Rotary on that. We could look at potentially doing something there. So I would like to add that in as a consideration. The other piece I'd like to add in potentially in lieu of the, I'm going to pronounce it wrong, the degaussing hut open air shelter would be a handicap access mat as part of the accessibility plans for the Lagoon Beach project. I don't know if it's included already. If it is, pull it out. But I think that's something I'd like to see is folks with mobility issues being able to get down onto the sand. So if that's already in budget, then I take that piece out, but those are the pieces I'd add. So again, to summarize, because I've gone on a bit of a ramble here, I would just remove the Lagoon West components, the classroom area from the Ocean View Park, and then I would add in funding approximately $400K to partner with Rotary and private entities to try to do a splash pad component to Quarry Park. That is my motion.
Okay. Can I get a seconder on that, please?
No second.
Oh, yeah. No seconders, okay. Okay, discussion on the motion. Councillor Jordison.
I just had a question about, it says playground replacement for Herm Willems Park. Does that include the upgrade to the slide or that issue with the slide?
Yes, it includes the slide. Where the slide, the structure that the slide is attached to is in dire need of replacement. It's
Thank
well
you.
over 25 years old.
Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Day.
Thank you. I would be very helpful if we had it up on the screen, what we're actually discussing. Because there's a couple of things in there that I agree with and a couple of things that I don't. I don't agree with taking out the Lagoon West improvements, because that's pretty valuable to be able to have a park with the ability to have music. And there's been a lot of efforts towards creating that with the Goldfinch Center. And that's a pretty, it's a community benefit to have those locations where it can work. And I also don't agree with removing the components at Ocean View Park, because specifically when I've worked with school groups to try to plan an event that would be physically challenging for the kids as well as educational, it can be very difficult to have a location that all of the students are able to get to on their own 2 feet. And that is a location that for schools to visit it, it is also part of the Sea to Sky trail network. So it's closer than you think to a lot of schools because they can access it through Winthrop Road, for example, and up through VMP. There's lots of different connections that could work. And if they're little kids coming from down here, whether it's Sangster or Wishart, it's all uphill on the way there and it's all downhill on the way home. So it has a better opportunity to work for school-based programming. I support the Moby Mount. It's been very well documented since the first accessible amenities were put in that lagoon, that it's a desired location. And lots and lots of letters have been received from seniors and people with different abilities seeking to get beyond the logs that pile up along the beach. So I don't know if that helps towards this.
Please, thank you. Just for clarity, I believe that we have 2 of those accessible mats included in the current scope. That's, you do. I know that. I just remember it's 1 or 2. I remember that. At one point it's 3, but just to sort of give you clarity. Thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. That's done. Okay, Councillor
Just,
Jensen.
sorry, if I
Sorry.
could just follow up from that, with them removing it from this funding, is it already funded by a grant or is it already funded by taxation?
I'll say it through the mic. It's part of the grant for the Colwood Waterfront Stewardship Path.
Perfect, thank you.
Councillor Jensen.
Thank you, Worship. I think I got some of that after I hit my button. I was looking for some congruity with the waterfront plan because I'm not on that committee, and I think you mentioned there was some duplication perhaps. I will speak to Lagoon West. I think that's a fantastic location, and I would disagree that it's so accessible by so many different neighborhoods and walkable, and there's trails already there. And I will concur with Councillor Day about the band shell. And I think communities that have band shells, they are well used, and it opens up all sorts of different things, especially if you can have different a variety of different performances, shielded from the wind or even potentially some inclement weather. So I'm opposed to that portion of it, but I guess we can dice this up. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Grove.
Thank you, Mayor. The Lagoon West Park component is the one I would speak to first about. I think that what that is, all 3 components, is a sense of building programming and facility in that park that doesn't exist. So now we have the dog walkers, we have the arts center, and we have the opportunity to open up that space to much, much more than it is now. Being aware of course, the limitations with the land being the MBS there, migratory bird sanctuary boundaries, which is an important element. The notion that the arts center is where it is in that building, my understanding, was built in the first place and intended to revert once the sales office function was finished to the city to act as an interpretive center. I think the notion of that is there. Elsie has had many plans, produced many documents, posters, laminated cards. Used to be able to come in and peruse that information at the bakery while you're having coffee or tea, and a lot of people appreciated that, about the indigenous cultures down there, as well as the natural wildlife inventories that took place to display. And this gives facility to hopefully allow that to happen in a more formal context. So I think that I was heartened by this. I was heartened by this, the presence of this and in the program. The Ocean View Park learning space thing, I would just speak to the diversity of the locations in that. I think that the rest of Colwood and moving it around into different locations I thought this was fairly well balanced. So I think that's my opinion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Jordison, have you spoken to this already? On this one yet? On this, I'm losing count here. On this motion. Okay, so you can speak before I am. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Jordison.
Thank you. I just wanted to suggest that a friendly amendment maybe, or I don't know, just sussing this out here. but that, you know, ALR negotiations can take quite some time. And I know that that's a location that would really be good for a splash park, but perhaps we could move that funding to Quarry Park for the time being, just because, not because Quarry Park is new or whatever, it doesn't really suit another location. And maybe there's an opportunity to move that splash park and work with the Rotary at this time to in Quarry Park and revisit the Colwood Park later. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'll speak the first time on this one, before I go to Council Ward. I'm supportive of this, and I'll tell you why. The frustrating thing is that if you go to enough of the events at the Arts and Culture Center right now, it is a frustrating experience to get parking there, period. It is absolutely frustrating, and it's not their fault. It is what it is. So to put a band shell there, I think is a grave mistake, because not only that, because we're putting a band shell into the beachlands already, right? So it doesn't make a heck of a lot of sense to me for another band shell. And there's been a few complaints, you know, but not too many. I mean, it's doable. We've had events down there, and where there's music outside, and I hear it from a couple of the people. But putting a band shell there, I just went, oh God, that's all I need. And then the other thing to be consistent on with the band shell down there, I mean, we keep on talking, you know, I don't know, when we're on this council table, we keep on talking about the bird migratory sanctuary. Putting a band shell down there doesn't make a lot of sense to me. I'm just, again, this is why I don't think we should be spending that money there. Now, whether an interpretive shelter or a natural playground should or shouldn't be there, I can go either way, but I'm supportive of it, in favor of other things here. And so I'm not against Ocean View Park. I'm okay with leaving it back in there. I don't know what that means, to tell you the truth. But in generally, I'm in support of this because of the fact that, it's got a natural beauty to itself. The attraction is the Arts and Culture Center. And like I said, the frustration of going to almost every show now, it's crazy that, oh, you can't get parking there. It's just ridiculous. So we're just doing this, we're just gonna make it worse. And I don't think the population down there is big enough to support the amenities there. So that's just my thoughts. Councillor Ward.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, some great comments around the table. I was going to raise the idea that we already have a band shell plan for beachlands, which to me is a more appropriate area. And not too many communities our size would have two band shell areas. Not saying we couldn't, we could have bragging rights, but I think it makes more sense to get more bang for our buck to do it that way. But I hear everybody here, and I think Councillor Grove, I heard you, and you, Mr. Mayor, on the interpretive shelter. I mean, I think that makes sense there. I want to be clear that I'm not opposed to doing any of these things at Lagoon West Park necessarily. I just feel like it's too much too soon for its state of readiness right now. And then I just don't see, like a playground, for example. I go down there all the time. I walk that sort of circuitous route, and it just isn't the kind of destination. Like if kids are down in that area, they're at the Lagoon Beach. They're not going to go around the other side. Like it just doesn't have that appeal. If you built a playground at the Lagoon, well, the place would be swamped, right? I mean, not saying we should, but it's a different story. We banned food trucks and things from down there, but then we want to have live concert performances with a parking lot that holds about 40 cars. Like I just don't see it. So like I'd be willing to make an amendment and leave in the interpretive shelter and even put back the outdoor classroom learning space. I mean, it's relatively small in terms of overall budget here. I think the key for me, if I'm being clear, was to find a way to free up some money to look at the splash park. And I appreciated Councillor Jordan's idea on Colwood Creek. My only concern there is that I don't want us to be in a position where we take from one side of town, from North Colwood, which is desperate for improvements, and move it again to the perceived, you know, sort of rich side of town where everybody gets everything because of DCC. So I think I'd like to leave that in. I think if we took out the natural playground and the band shell, and this is me as a neophyte with no idea of cost, assuming that that would leave enough money in the wallet to have some meaningful discussions with with the developers and Rotary to see what we could do about a splash pad feature in a park that's under development right now, really, that potentially has opportunities. So, I mean, maybe I'll wait for everyone else to have their second go, but I'd be proposed to amend the removal of, or the putting back in the interpretive shelter and the outdoor classroom learning space and leaving it as is, knowing that that leaves us with, well, that's 350K there to potentially go towards a splash pad. But again, this doesn't bring us up to the full 2.9 with interest earning either. There's actually about 650K that would be sitting there. So I mean, maybe actually just one before I concede through the chair to Gord, if we have any idea of what a smaller splash pad feature as an add-on to Quarry Park might be looking at cost-wise.
That's about it. The splash pad at Colwood Creek, which is a relatively small one, was approximately that a few years ago. So
yeah, see, this would be in partnership with Rotary, so I would see and potentially have the developer or parks DCCs come to the table. So I see it being feasible, even if we put back the shelter and we all go learn at Ocean View. So I'll concede for the moment, though.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olson, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think I can get on side with Ian's proposal here. I would like to see, it would be a shame to remove, I think, the outdoor classroom and learning space from Ocean View, just because it's thriving with Indigenous plantings and it is heavily used by Wishart Elementary. So as somebody with kids still in the school system, I see them coming up the stairwell between Carindale and St. Troy all the time, you know, especially when the weather gets nicer. And so they do come up and it is actually quite heavily used. And if you haven't walked around there in a while, I recommend it. You know, it does have its own ecosystem in there, mature trees, like a little forest in your backyard. So I would like to see that stay in there. So I just wanted to express my feelings on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Someone else, oh, Councillor Day again. Councillor Day, please.
Thank you. I sort of lost track of where we're at in terms of the money value, but I think we're well within our list. I think that I would like to see us move one of the on the menu of potential project categories is included the investigative work. I've heard several people talk about the lack of a community center or a youth center in Colwood, and that is something that I would really like to see move forward. And so I just am going to highlight that that is something that we could fund, that investigative part. I guess I'm very focused on infrastructure because I recognize that over the years, it's been very difficult to achieve big changes with big dollar values associated with them. And so that remains a big area of concern for me. The last point I just wanted to make is the potential partnership with the Rotary Club to add a water feature at Quarry Park. I feel like we may be spreading an issue kind of thin for them because it is the Rotary Club that is interested in looking at an outdoor pool feature. And I don't know where they're at with that. It certainly fits with the splash pad idea, but I don't want to set them up for failure by spreading their efforts over two projects rather than trying to get one done at a time. So, and also it's hard to, I know water feature seems like a good thing in the full sun, but it might be asking for a lot of sunburnt kids as well, being that it's so sunny there. So I'm hoping that we could, I think there is a good argument been made to take out the ban shell. And I think there's still room, in my opinion, for the outdoor classroom and the interpretive shelter. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thanks. Councillor Ward, please.
Sorry, I'm just going to propose an amendment to amend the motion to keep the interpretive shelter and outdoor classroom and learning space and cut just the natural playground and band shell. And otherwise I'd leave it as is for the moment.
That's what I interpreted. That's why you highlighted it, correct, Marcy? Yeah, okay, perfect. Just waiting for her to change this. We're getting ahead of ourselves. Yeah. So wait, there's no, whoops. Just so there's no confusion. Yeah, that's right, being removed. Right, perfect. Okay, that's Council Grove.
Well, I was just going to suggest, thank you, Mayor. I was just going to suggest that perhaps we could switch the funding number between the band shell 220 and the interpretive center at 160. It's like my final offer. So the interpretive center got a little bit more of a funding boost to make it a more substantial and meaningful element, because I think the original insight into that entire element could be well served. The little addition on the Arts and Culture Center building, I believe, was around $200,000 cost. So 200 doesn't buy you much. I love the idea of having the interpretive center being something substantial, because it doesn't just provide the service of, interpreting the natural environment, which includes the bird sanctuary. And most people don't know it exists. It's almost 100 years old. It deserves a lot of attention, but also the Indigenous history of the area, which is thick, rich, and deep, and needs support as much as possible. Is that an amendment request? No.
Yes,
Yeah.
if you're trying to make.
I'll make it an amendment.
Yes.
To raise the funding of the interpretive center to 220 and reduce the band shell's coming up. $220.
Just, okay, well, I'll open up for discussions on the amendment. Councilor Ward, please.
With all due respect to Councillor Grove, I'm going to oppose the second amendment. It seems fairly arbitrary. The budget was proposed by staff at 160. Seems reasonable. We've invested a lot of money in arts and culture, Colwood, adding washrooms and things down there already into that area. Unless there's a compelling reason why an extra 60K would fundamentally change it, to me, it defeats the point of trying to find additional savings to accomplish what the original amendment was set out to do. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Grove.
Okay, thank you. I think that the washrooms are serving a purpose aside from the arts and culture, but and is a general functional use. The funding question is simply one of taking that available funds as they are dispersed and focusing it on something that I felt at 160 was perhaps short of the original vision that I thought was there, or I think could be there if we speak to the members of ELSI and others who have been devoting their lives to this health and survival of the entire lagoon area and its natural component. There's an awful lot of interest in the community from my exposure to develop that aspect. the fact that the original sales center was to divert to city use as an interpretive center after 10 or 20 years, when it was originally approved and built, seems to me would involve a significant renovation and installation. So there is, I simply reverse the numbers, seeing that $350,000 is being removed from the Lagoon West component. Perhaps I just simply suggest that it could be even more. There isn't a clear plan. I understand that. I am hoping that with the involvement with Elsie and others, that we can develop a significant presence down there in terms of natural component that belongs to that special gem. And that park is certainly it.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? I'm going to call the question on the amendment to the amendment. Is that correct? Yeah. No, you had the.
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
yes.
amendment to the motion.
Yeah, amendment to the motion, right?
Actually, well.
No, because
with
you
the
amend.
motion. So this would be amendment to the amendment. Yes.
Yeah, that's what I said. Amendment to the amendment. So amendment to the amendment. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor to the amendment to the amendment. Okay, and those opposed. Okay, so have it shown as Jordison, Ward, Kobayashi, and Olson opposed. So that the amendment to the amendment fails. And now we'll go back to the amendment to the original motion. Any further discussion? Oh. Okay, now to the amendment to the motion. All those in favor? And opposed? Councillor Grove. Councillor Grove. And now to the motion as amended, Okay. Although, no, as amended, right? Yeah, main motion as amended. That's correct. Okay. Councillor Day, please.
I'm just wondering, because we are focused entirely on what was in the report, which is parks. Will we be talking about this again to look at spending the remainder of the funding?
Thank you for the question. We're hoping, like, if this moves forward today and this is 2.5 million and we have about 2.9 to spend, then that will give us the comfort we need to move forward. And we will have to bring it up again as time progresses and perhaps plans change or costs change or estimates change, or we will definitely be revisiting, but this will give us a huge step forward so that we can start progressing on these plans.
Then, Mr. Mayor, I would request that I be able to make a further motion after this one is complete.
Sure. Yeah, Councillor Jordison.
Thank you, Mayor. I just, Gord, I wanted to ask you, did we do this hydro seeding of the land at the Quarry Park area already?
That's completed, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. So I'll call the question. All those in favor to the motion as amended? Any opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Councillor Day, would like to make another motion? Fire away.
So I'd like to propose that the remaining growing communities funding be put towards, sorry, I'm looking for my words here. The, what is that called? It's in the report. Hang on. It's not coming to me, but the work that we're doing to survey the Machosen corridor, that's where I'd like to utilize. And I don't know if it's all the funding or some of the funding, but I'm open to clarification on that if we need it clarified. But I just wanted to make sure that we fund so that I'm trying to get us closer to being able to address some of the major irritants in our community on Machosen.
if it's helpful for council, that's $125,000 budget currently for the My Chosen Corridor study.
But all these estimates are class D anyways, right? So you want some room for wiggle, right? So that's good. I think you've okay, Councilor Ward, go ahead, please.
Just gonna say I'm motivated. Thank you, Councillor Day. I think that's an important initiative, and I think putting that money towards it is something that I can get behind for sure.
Okay, seeing no other hands, I am gonna call the question. All those in favor? Whoops.
My hand first. I don't think we want to allocate all the remaining funds because the budget is only 125,000. So if we could just, if that's amenable to council.
Okay, absolutely. It's because these are all class D anyways. I know how things work here, so I feel comfortable with this.
You just say that we allocate funds.
That the Machosen Road Corridor study be funded by the Growing Communities Fund.
Yeah,
Would be
perfect.
appropriate.
That is perfect.
What she said. If you were to buy.
Yeah.
After funded, just be buy. No pressure.
Perfect. On that note, call the question. All those in favor? That's unanimous. Thank you very much. And on that note, there is dinner available for everybody right now. And I shall, no being no further business, I shall adjourn this meeting. Thank you.